All right. So let's start out with a good afternoon. Good afternoon. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to talk about this blue thing over here, and then when I'm done talking, we're going to shoot it. Is that okay with you guys? Yeah. All right, so when you came out here today and you saw that, what did you call it? What is that? Yeah, you can call that a cannon, all right. If you're a soldier walking across the battlefield, Revolutionary War, and you're facing one of those, you're going to call it a cannon. But if you're shooting one of those, you're going to call it a gun. That is the technical term for it. In fact, this is called a light 6-pound brass battalion gun. Now, is that a big title for one piece of artillery or what? Yeah. So I'm going to make that real short. When I say it's a brass gun, that's what the tube is made out of. It's more bronze than brass, but that's what it's made out of. The other metal they would use to make gun tubes is cast iron, but this is a brass gun. When I say it's a battalion gun, today that translates to field gun. This is the type of artillery piece that moves around with your infantry and helps you by firing at the enemy's infantry. So it has to be relatively mobile and light, yes? So this gun weighs a mere 1,400 pounds. That's all there is to it. In the 18th century, that's a light gun. So because of that, and I have to move this gun around on the battlefield with men instead of horses to get it from place to place, I'll have about a 15-man crew on this gun to man this gun, okay? But I called it a 6-pounder. So if the gun weighs 1,400 pounds, what about this thing at 6 pounds? Ah, okay, very good. Happen to have one of those right here. There it is. A 6-pound projectile for a 6-pound gun. Now, who likes to watch movies? Anybody like to watch movies? Who likes to watch war movies? Who's seen The Patriot? Remember that big battle at the end? Men are marching around the battlefield in lines, kind of like some of you guys are sitting, and there's lots of them coming across an open field. In that movie, you'll see guns just like that fired at that group of men, and when this gets to that line, what do you normally see? A big old what? Explosion, and people go flying. It's really spectacular, is it not? So who wants to see how big an explosion 6 pounds actually make? Anybody want to see that? You ready? There it is, okay? So that didn't go off, so either I'm crazy or that thing is not going off anytime soon. So which one is it? Okay, sometimes people say both, which would actually be true. I could be crazy, and that thing is not going off anytime soon. Why not? Yeah, because guns do not fire bombs or shells, they fire round shot. This is 6 pounds of solid cast iron. And I will say this, if you're within 1,200 yards of this gun, I don't care if this thing is rolling or bouncing or hit you right square in the mush, this is going through you at 1,200 yards. Everybody got that? All right. So let's say we turned the gun around, and right now it's pointed at you right there. And I also fired the gun in ricochet, which means I'm actually bouncing this thing across the field, so you can kind of see it coming, but you still can't get out of the way. You know what I'm saying? So right now it's coming for you. How do you feel about that?
Not real good.
You don't feel real good about that, and you know what? You're in the second rank. This will go through that one and might get you. So how do you feel about that? Not too good, right? How about you guys that are really close? How are you feeling right now? You as scared as these two are? Yeah, but how about you guys out on the end? How are you feeling? You're feeling lucky, right? Okay, now did I say I'm bouncing this thing across the field? You know what happens when things bounce on uneven ground? They change directions, okay? So right now this thing is lined up with these two right here, but guess who's actually in play when this thing is coming your way? Everybody in here right now, okay? But let's say this thing actually did hit you in the arm. Where did your arm go? Let's say it hit you in the right arm, so that's over here someplace. Who's over here? You guys right there, okay? So it went through you, and it hit you right in the belly right here. Now this didn't blow up, but guess what did? You, okay? And where'd that stuff go? All over the place. So here's what just happened, ladies and gentlemen. 1,400 pounds of artillery, 15-man crew, about 20 seconds to load it, and I just took out 2 guys with 1 shot. How impressive is that? All right, who's not impressed? Raise your hands. Okay, let's go over a couple of things again that we talked about briefly, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, if you're within 15 yards or so of these 2 people right here and it hit them, you're going to know this thing went close to you because there's stuff flying around the battlefield that used to be 2 people. And you get to see it fly by, or someone will actually hit you on the way by. Think about that. How many guys did I take out? 2. How many guys are scared out of their minds? A lot. What do people do when they're scared? They run. You know what happens when you run, don't you? I take the battlefield and I win the battle. It is hard to imagine at this time in history with a gun like this, you're going to scare more people with it than you're going to hurt with it. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. Now let me ask you guys a question. You guys good troops or not? Yes. That is not exactly the response I was looking for. I'm going to try that one more time. You guys good troops or not? Yes, sir. All right, I made a hole in your line right there. What are you going to do about that? All right, I heard it. Somebody said close it. Then what? You just going to stand there and let me shoot at you? What are you going to do? Oh, shoot back. That's right. But you guys are infantry, so what's your weapon? It's a musket. What's the effective range of a musket? 100 yards. What's the effective range of my gun? So if you want to shoot me, what do you have to do? Yeah, you got to close up those gaps. You're going to keep coming forward. You're going to try to overrun my gun. So let's say you guys are good troops. You had a regiment of 350 guys. You still got 300 left, and now you're no longer 1,200 yards away. You're 300 yards away. See, right now, if I fire one of those every 15 seconds or so and take out 2 people at a time, is that good math for me at this point? No, because what are you guys getting ready to do to me? Run me over. So if you were me, this was getting ready to happen to you and your 15-man crew and your one gun, what would you do? Run. Oh, man. I heard, how many guys are runners? Raise your hands, I heard you. Very disappointing, all right? Now, in fact, there will be times when you get run over so fast that if you don't run, you will die. So guess what you will do? You will run. But if you run and leave your gun intact, guess what the enemy might do to you with your gun? They might turn around and shoot you with it, okay? So is there anything I can do about that? Am I just stuck with that? What should I do? Huh? Okay, I know what you're talking about. All right, so let's talk about that. Guys, at the back of the gun where you put the fuse in, it's called a vent hole. This is called a spike. Looks like a big nail. So instead of putting a fuse in there, you put that in there and you drive it in with a hammer hard so you can't get it out and break off the top of it. It's called spiking the gun. When you do that, they actually have to drill out the vent so they can use the gun. So if you got to run from your gun, spike the gun and run. Okay, very good. What else could you do besides run? All right, I like that. Guys, what's this? It's a tin can. But what's inside the tin can is what's important, right? So right there, you see one of these little pieces of shot. A can like this might hold as many as 30 of those. This is called canister, grape shot, or case shot. And when I load this in the gun and I fire it, there'll be a big piece of wood here called a sabot. Take a look at this. This is a fixed round or a cartridge. There's my 6-pound projectile. My bag full of powder is all held together by a sabot. I'll do the same thing with the canister. So I'll take a can like this and put a charge full of powder behind that. When I fire it, everything comes apart inside the gun tube. When this stuff leaves the muzzle, it sprays the battlefield like a big old what? Now, that sounds pretty impressive, doesn't it? So why don't I use that all the time? Yeah, somebody said it. This is only good for 300 yards. Now, if you got to use canister today, how well is your day going so far? Not very good, right? But could this stuff possibly save your day? Yep. There's a guy at Trenton that actually gave a description of canister going by him. Said this stuff makes a terrible squeaking sound when it goes by. So if it doesn't kill you, can it hurt, scare the tar out of you as well? Yeah, so that's what I do when the enemy gets close. All right, very good. So far I'm using the gun to scare you and to take you out. What else could I use the gun for? Intimidation. I can't hear through mask and I'm half deaf. Help me out. Intimidation. Huh? Help me out. Intimidation. What? I still can't hear. I'm that bad. Intimidation. Oh. Okay. Very good. All right. Very good. I can use it very. But let me ask you another question. Who has artillery besides me? Them. What's a good target for my artillery? Theirs, right? Now their artillery here at Yorktown is behind earthworks like this. So what's going to be a good target for my artillery? The earthworks like this. How about Thomas Nelson's house where Cornwallis made his headquarters? Would that be a good target? And down here in the river there are 2 frigates, and every time the French try to attack this redoubt across the road from us, those frigates would fire into French and send them back to their line. What's going to be a good target for artillery here at Yorktown? Are those 2 frigates in the river. So I think what we just said is I can use this gun to scare the enemy. Is that true? Yes or no? And I can use this gun to take the enemy out. Is that true? And I can use this gun to break stuff. Is that true? I love artillery, don't you? I'm not sure about this crowd. We're going to have to work on it, okay? All right, so here's the deal. We're going to fire this thing off. And you know what happens when this goes boom? The outdoor areas will officially be closed for the day, okay? So from here, basically everybody heads back to the museum. You can look at the movies a little bit. We're open until 5 inside, but the outdoor areas will close, okay? And I'll remind you of that again when I fire this thing off. But ladies and gentlemen, I do this every day. There's a little organization you may have heard of called OSHA. Ever heard of those guys? Yeah, they make me wear these earplugs right here. Did you guys bring yours? Yeah, you did. They're called hands. There they are. If you want to cover your ears, I will let you know when to do that. If you got a hearing assistance device, you want to turn that down or off, now's the time to do that. Nobody can be sitting on the fence or shoulder, so that looks good. So as soon as we're ready, we're going to fire this gun off. Now what you're going to hear is a small piece of artillery with a ½ pound of gunpowder. This gun alone would use as much as 2 pounds of gunpowder. At Yorktown, we had guns as big as this one. Everybody see that big one right there? That's a 24-pound gun. That's a siege gun. And that gun might use as much as 8 pounds of powder for one shot. Now, when the Allies opened up the first parallel and started firing at the British, they had about 65 pieces of artillery working at the same time. And by the last day of the siege, about 100. Now, the biggest guns at Yorktown could only be fired once every 10 minutes. Otherwise, they would get so hot that the barrels would droop. So is this a slow loading thing or what that we're doing here? And I want you to consider at Yorktown, over the course of almost 9 days, the Allies averaged a shot almost every minute at the British for almost 9 days. Pretty cool, huh? All right, so here we go. Guys, we're going to do it by the numbers. All right. So, Mark, I'm not going to come get that worm from you, so just put it behind you. Okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll let the farm know we're doing this. So they'll whistle one more time. Now what we're going to do is we're going to load by the numbers so I can explain what we're actually doing, because there's a lot of things to do to load this gun. You wouldn't do this on the battlefield. Everything goes bang, you just load the thing up and get ready for the next shot, okay? We're going to try to explain a few things as we do it, so here we go. Gun, attention! Search piece. So the gun at the front left has something called a wad hook or a worm. It's just a big corkscrew device. Remember this round I showed you that had this canvas bag on it? When you fire those, that stuff doesn't all come out of the gun. After 4 or 5 shots, you can have enough trash in there, and when you put the next round in, it won't go back far enough to get the fuse in, and you'll have a misfire. So about every 5 shots, we're going to clear out the big debris with that worm. Now everything else is going to be something we do after every shot. We'll start that process with this command. Advance sponge. So the sponge is just a big Q-tip, basically. We dip it into a bucket of water. He started in the muzzle, but at the back of the gun, the vent is still open. So if he sponges now, he's going to push a bunch of trash through the tube, through the vent, on top of the crew. That's not good, is it? And when you bring the sponge out, it's a pretty tight fit. What are you going to suck back into the tube when you pull the sponge back out? Air when you're trying to put out the fire. Is that all bad? Yeah, so we have a simple solution for that. 10 vent. So the gunner at the right rear has a piece of leather on his thumb so he don't burn it when he seals off the vent hole. Sponge piece. Now we sponge the piece from the muzzle to the breech. And hopefully we suck the air out of the tube and put out all the fire. Now guys, on my gun today, the side boxes are still on the carriage, but the side boxes are full of artillery rounds. And when you're firing the gun in real world, those things will be set off somewhere else, because you don't want 2 boxes full of artillery rounds right there, do you? So they're set someplace else. Next command would actually have a runner come from the side box and hand off a round to the guy in the front left, but we're going to just, he already has us. We're going to give this command, handle, cartridge. So we'll have a cartridge delivered to the loader. Charge with cartridge. He turns around and sticks the cartridge in the tube. This is a direct fire weapon, so the cartridge is laying in the muzzle. It actually has to get back to the breech, the back of the tube. So let's put the sponger back to work. Ram down, cartridge. So there the sponge is called a ram. We use that to shove the cartridge all the way back to the breech. Now that bag full of powder is right underneath the vent hole. It's time to make my fuse. Prime. So we'll take a pick, run it through the vent hole. That bag gets closed. Who just opened it up? He did right there. Today we're going to take a paper fuse. We're going to stick that in there. We are loaded and ready to go. Are you guys ready? All right, here we go. Make grenade! Secure the piece. I wonder what that sounds like through that microphone. All right, guys, anybody feel that in their chest? All right, that means it was a good shot, okay? So what did you just see again? A small charge of powder from one small gun. Imagine a whole bunch of these things pointed at you and these things going off about once every minute, okay, for over a week. That's what we're talking about. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap this thing up. So remember, the outdoor areas are now closed, so everybody will head up that way. But if you do have questions or want to talk to me about, you know, this or that, come on down. I'll help you out. Otherwise, guys, we appreciate you coming out. Thanks so much. You're welcome.